Hello. I'm here today because I've been putting off talking about God for a long time, and I have to now because it's just been long enough that I feel very called, I guess, now at this point, now that I am a little more aware of myself and what's going on, and I've had some pretty intense spiritual experiences the past couple of years with this head injury. Hi, I'm Corinne. I have brain damage. No, I'm trying to make this a cohesive thought. I'm trying to make this a cohesive string of thoughts about spirituality and God and near-death experiences and the afterlife and life and death and the way that everybody perceives it and how your perception affects your life here versus your life afterwards, I think. I'm going to do my best to not swear so that this is actually listenable for our more wholesome audiences. Because I actually want this message to be coherent. I actually want to deliver this in some sort of way that hopefully will make sense and potentially be able to help people. So that, now that that's out of the way, I do have brain damage. I know that for a fact my speech is not ideal, so you'll have to bear with me on that one. But because of that, I've experienced a lot of really beautiful things in the past couple of years, mostly in my sleep. But at this point, I don't really think there's all that much difference between this realm and that realm, or whatever realms you may want to think exist, in my personal opinion. So I know it's all sounding very woo-woo and lofty and out there and heady and whatnot, but I don't really know where to start. I guess I'll start with like my background in spirituality and whatnot, so you can understand where I'm coming from with all of this. I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Lutheran Protestant church. Very, very puritanical. Very, very, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, we would go to church and we would be at church for like 6 hours on Sunday. And then there were always other events that would take place. Like, sometimes there would be a Bible study or an extra service in the middle of the week, or Bible school, vacation Bible school, Sunday school, confirmation classes, communion classes, getting communed, getting confirmed, etc., etc. So I did all of that from the ages of like birth to 13, I guess, was when I was confirmed as a Lutheran Protestant, which is actually incidentally also when I stopped believing in God. So I spent the first 12 or 13 years having a staunch belief in God, having a intensive church experience, I guess you could call it. It was very much the basis of what our weekends revolved around. I remember distinctly being threatened that if I did not get out of bed to go to church, I would be dragged there in my pajamas. So it was very like, we are going. And when I was 13, I stopped believing in God. And I do believe, I think that a lot of that had to do with the first boyfriend I had when I was 13. He was in the Catholic Church. Like, his family was forcing him to be in the Catholic Church, but he was very staunchly atheist at that time, which I found interesting. And I think a lot of that influence was and when you're that young and you're trying to defend your position or defend your belief system, and you find somebody who's so seems to have a logical argument as to like why you're wrong. And I've never, well, I try not to be too averse to admitting I'm wrong. I do my absolute best at that. So I think it was between that and losing a family member. Like, my grandfather had passed away a year prior, and then like a household pet, like my cat that we had had for 18 years passed away. And I think I was just kind of going through it, and I lost my faith in God at that point, because I remember when I had to write some sort of statement as to like why I wanted to be confirmed in the church. I remember writing the statement, and even in that being like, I'm not sure if I believe in God. I don't really know if it's real or not. I wish I could believe in it, but right now I don't. And even with that, I was confirmed, because I think the pastor at the time was just like, it's okay, come on back, prodigal son, you know? So luckily he was a very nice person. I had a good experience within that church. I don't really have anything to complain about. All of the people were very nice. All of the pastors we had were very nice. I think we only had like 2 while I was there. So then I spent most of my teenagehood not believing in God and just kind of messing around, doing all sorts of stuff that the teenagers get into that they're not supposed to, with the alcohols and the devil's lettuce and the whatnot. I wasn't like a terrible kid, but it definitely, the lack of belief at that point definitely led me to not care about certain moralistic aspects of what I was doing, as far as like substances or like lying to my parents or like, you know, just doing stuff with boys I wasn't supposed to, things like that. And I do remember one of the nicest kids I dated in high school. It's just such a nice person, just an absolutely wonderful person. He's no longer with us, but he is, if you know what I mean. And his family was very religious. I dated him when we were like 16. And I remember going over for lunch, and even at lunch they were saying grace, and I was just like, oh crap, like putting the bread back for a second, like, I'm sorry. Because I was just so unaccustomed to that, and they were just the sweetest people. And that was one moment where I really did feel like God had come back into my life, I guess. Even though I remember that being one of the times where I was in this mindset of like, I don't know if I believe in God per se, but there's something bigger than us. It's whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's nature, Mother Nature, like aliens, whatever, what have you. I was at that moment, at that point in time, I definitely just felt this oneness and wholeness with the source, I guess you could say. And I think it was because that person and that family were just so right with God at the time, and it really was what I needed. I remember going to some of their Bible study groups, even though I wasn't a believer, and I was just like, well, I'll come to see what's up because I want to support your family and like what you guys do. And I want to, you know, like, not act like I'm okay with it, but, you know, I want to be open to the experience of, like, what you're all about kind of thing. And that was really nice. I felt extremely supported by that Bible group. I was actually, you know, I was going through a lot at the time. I was, like, in the middle of a court case against somebody who had abused me as a child, and it was really, really helpful to have that kind of support and a little group of people that said they would pray for me and all of that. And it really, really, really was nice. We ended up breaking up, like, I don't know, the summer before senior year or something like that. because we were kids, so, I don't even know what ended up all of transpiring, but that was one time when I was just like, okay, there is something more to this, I guess. And I really am grateful for that time. I really am grateful for that person and his family, and they're just, it's awful that he's gone now. He died of cancer a few years ago, but he's still here. I have dreams about him all the time. And that was one of the things that prompted me to sit down and do this. It's whenever I have dreams of him, or whenever I feel like he's around, I've had this sense of, how come I can talk to you? Like, essentially this sense of his presence asking me, like, how come I can talk to you? How come I can reach out to you? And nobody else seems to be able to, like, converse, or, what's the word? Like, interact. And I think that the answer to that is, I finally believe in God again, and I finally pray again, and am, like, feeling closer to God and source and light, or whatever. I use all of those words interchangeably because I think they all mean the same thing, because I think they do. I think that we're all just using these various terms and kind of fighting about semantics. It's like, is it God? Is it Yahweh? Is it Allah? Is it, Yeshua? Is it Krishna? Is it blah, blah? It's like, those are all just words for the same thing. Is it the Tao? Is it source? Is it light? Is it the universe? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all words for the same thing. We're all just trying to use language to describe something that's divine and indescribable. So I use all of that kind of stuff interchangeably, and I think that does confuse people, but it also, doesn't it make the most sense? And isn't it kind of like the best is, like, everybody's right? Surprise! Like, every religion to a certain extent is right. Like, there is absolutely good, there is absolutely evil, and you will probably have some sort of afterlife or be here again. And I really do think that they've got that part right. That seems to be pretty universal. I haven't done all of that much research into the various religions. I took a world religions class in college, and I've done, in the past year or two, while I've been home recovering from this head injury, I have done quite a bit of, like, listening to audiobooks, like I'm gonna butcher it. Bhagavad Gita. Oh, please don't. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. That, the Tao Te Ching, Be Here Now by Ram Dass. I've read the Bible quite a bit. Like, I've just been on this trying to figure out and make sense of what happened to me kind of journey for the past 2 years, because, I mean, I was when I spent from the ages of, like, 17, because I'd say I had a little brush with the divine when I was 16, because that family and that person, just absolutely beautiful, wonderful, can't praise them enough. And then from, like, 17 to, I don't know, 26, 27, once I quit drinking, I'd say my next brush with religion or spirituality was when I was down in Virginia. When I was in Virginia, I was working at this place where I was required to take the kids to church. It was like a wilderness rehabilitation kind of thing, and part of that was taking them to AA and taking them to church. And I really, really liked it. I got to go to a bunch of different denominations while I was there. So I went to, like, a Baptist church, Methodist, Pentecostal, probably a couple others that I might be forgetting. And it was really nice. It was really nice to see the communities and the way that the families would interact with our kids, because we were just going with a group of like 11 kids, 11 teenagers, and it was beautiful to watch the way that they, accepted them into their community and had the nicest things to say to them, and were always so pleased when they would help them with, pamphlets or chairs or setting up coffee or any of that kind of stuff. And it was a really good experience for the kids as well, because none of them had gotten nearly enough appreciation. That's for sure. So that was another moment. And I quit drinking. I quit drinking when I was down there because of that. I was like, well, I can't be bringing these kids to AA and to church and not practice what I preach. So I quit drinking while I was there, and it benefited me greatly, and it was wonderful. And I ended up leaving that job for other reasons unrelated to any sort of religion or spirituality. But yeah, that was another moment or time where I was just like, there's something to this. It makes you feel undeniably good. And the people that hold their faith and beliefs and stay with that are the most well-adjusted people that I've come across. So I don't think there's really anything bad to say about that. And then I came home and spent a few years just being a mess, I guess. That's what it was. I came home and I had an incident where I was the victim of a crime. And that kind of threw things for a loop for a while. I really don't need to get into what kind of crime it was. Somebody took violent advantage of me. Let's just put it that way. So, that's neither here nor there, but that is one of the things that dipped me into hell. Hell on earth, if you can call it that. I mean, recovering from that, because it was not just psychological, unfortunately. I had a lot of physical injuries. I have physical injuries that still flare up to this day from that attack. And yeah, it was really hard to get over that one. I really didn't feel like God was with me. I really felt like, I felt like the earth was hell, and that everyone was out to get me, and that nobody cared, and that I was completely alone. That was the hardest thing about it, was just feeling so unbelievably alone and misunderstood. And it was like, even after I had been violently attacked, I still had to just go to work like nothing had happened, and I still had to just continue attempting to have a career, even though I felt like I was going insane. And I ended up kind of floundering, and I lost a job over it because I was just so unreliable and stressed and just generally difficult and like amped up and reactive and hard to deal with because of the trauma, essentially. And so that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, all right, how do I get a handle on this? I had already quit drinking again, because when I came home from Virginia, I was sober maybe 4 months total, and then I fell off the wagon because some stupid excuse, work stress. I went out to a bar one night and was just like, screw it, and it was all over after that for a while. But then I got back on the wagon, hauled myself back up onto the wagon, and quit again when I was 26 or 27. Must have been 27. I don't know. It's been 5 years. So, yeah. Because I got an ulcer. I got an ulcer from abusing my body so much. From essentially like that self-hate that comes with trauma and all of that. It's brutal. So I had just like wrecked my digestive system so much by like not eating enough, drinking too much, eating the wrong things, etc. Anybody who's done that for too long knows the struggle. So I'm really glad I quit again. And that's what prompted me to quit. God was like, I'm going to give you an ulcer because otherwise you're not going to stop on your own, are you? And I was just like, okay, fine. Oh, I shouldn't hit the mic. So I didn't really have much of a faith or anything like that when I quit drinking again at the age of like 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. And there's hair in my mouth. And yeah, I got off of the booze, and that was one thing. And I stopped doing any, like, hard drugs or pills or any of that kind of stuff. Because I used to mess around with that, too. Just because it's so normalized around here that, like, you don't even think anything of it. People are just like, hey, you want this? And it's just, like, another Friday night. So I stopped doing all that and messing around with that. And then I got off of all the psych drugs they had me on. Because I was just like, this isn't helping. I was waking up in, like, a half-awake state. And just, like, saying gibberish for an hour. And I was like, that doesn't seem to be helpful for my mental health. So got a neuropsych evaluation. Turns out I don't need all these drugs. Got off all the drugs, which anytime they say that psych drugs don't give you withdrawals or they're not physically addictive, they're lying. They're lying. Oh my gosh, so many of the psych drugs are physically addictive and the withdrawals are just as bad as opiates. So, like, have fun with that. It's awful. I feel really bad for anybody who's still out there and attempting to get off of, like, psych drugs because the withdrawals are just as bad as any fucking street drug. It's so stupid. But I digress. Oh, and I swore. I'm sorry. I was attempting to not swear. Brain damage. That was an aside. Yeah, so I feel like this is getting too long, like, the backstory. But it's just, like... So I finally got off all of the psych drugs because the psych drugs they're like a portal to hell. I saw more demons and more, like, horrible dreams and horrible things just seeing the most, like, horrific of the dark side when I was on psych drugs. And they were always telling me that it was like not psychosis. Psychotic something or other and fucking, like... Sorry, I swore again. Oh my gosh, I gotta get better at that. Yeah, they were always telling me it was, like, all in my head. And now the more I think about it, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, some of it might have been, but how come certain drugs just made me see demons? Like, I don't understand what that is. And then as soon as I stopped them, the demons went away. Like, what is that? Seems like I shouldn't have been on those drugs, but whatever. So, yeah, if you start taking psych drugs and start seeing demons, it's probably the wrong prescription. So there's that. And I do believe, like, I ended the last video I recorded with something about how people that let dark energy into their life and people that work with dark energy and people that just allow the darkness in, like, that's when it starts torturing you, and people don't realize that. And and to extrapolate on that, I mean when I say letting dark things into your life and letting dark energy into your life, I mean, like, anything. I mean booze. Booze is the easiest way to just let a demon take your body over it, in my opinion. And I realize that sounds crazy, but that's just what I've technically, that's what I personally think I've experienced. I've watched, you know, when you see somebody who's so blacked out, they're not at the helm anymore. There's somebody else driving that. It's because they created an empty vessel and something else filled them up, in my opinion. You know, nature loves a vacuum. I don't know. And yeah, so allowing dark energy, and I mean, like, booze, I mean pills, any pills, opiates in particular because they're a depressant, benzos in particular because they're a depressant, amphetamines in particular because they create hallucinations for a lot of people, and not in the good way. And yeah, I really do. I believe that there are certain substances that just like open up a doorway or something, and it's not good. As soon as I stopped doing all of that, I stopped being tortured by like dark dreams and dark things and just bad, 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 bad all the time. And that's when I started finally thinking God might exist again. It was when I came out of that darkness of like being traumatized by being violently attacked and being so down in the crap of it that I thought that there was no way out, and I thought that we were all just essentially living in hell. And I know that some people still think that way, and that's, I think, part of why I want to tell you this, because we're not in hell. We're in some sort of realm where the devils have been let loose to play around, but we're definitely not in hell. So that's a plus. And yeah, I do believe that quote, God is angry because hell is empty and all the devils are here. I think that that's pretty accurate. And not allowing that into your life is the only way to get rid of it or to avoid it. There are certain people that have extremely dark energy, and it's not even necessarily their fault a lot of the time. I've met a lot of people. I live in a paranormal hotspot, so it's like I've met a lot of people who have really dark things attached to them. And the more that I understand about it and the more that I learn about it, the more I can recognize it. And it's very apparent now. But since this injury, I started doing good things. That sounds stupid. I started reading the Bible after I had like an emotional breakdown when I was working for this company that was just... Oh boy. I was working for a company that was just unbelievably corrupt and selling things that were contaminated and creating an environment for their workers that was contaminated, and I don't want to get into that in this particular video, but I was in a place where a lot of my coworkers were also practicing witchcraft and like literally open about practicing witchcraft and sorcery and divination and talking to spirits and all of this stuff, like just blatant, like just very, very blatantly, openly satanic. And I was unbelievably tortured there. I felt as though I was being tortured. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that's just what it felt like. The heaviness of that environment and the building and the energy there, and the building was haunted. There was security camera footage of like the glass in the front of a vending machine just shattering for no apparent reason at 3 a.m. when nobody was there. And there was footage of, like, things flying off of the walls, because obviously they had cameras everywhere. So anytime the ghosts acted up, they caught it on film. So yeah, no, I absolutely believe ghosts are real. And I also believe ghosts are people, if that makes sense. Like, I almost consider the term ghost offensive, because they're not really... It makes them sound scary when they're just people, if that makes sense. Even the ones who are throwing stuff from the walls, it's like, yeah, there's a reason they're doing that, you know? And I don't know. I don't fear ghosts anymore. I don't know if I ever really feared them, because I've lived in such a haunted place for so long that it's just, they're everywhere. It's like totally normal for people to have ghosts in their house here, or ghosts in their anywhere, like building of work. It's very common. And it's funny because people don't talk about it that much, but once you do open that conversation up, everybody has 1,000 ghost stories, and it's awesome. Because they're not ghosts, they're just people that are hanging out here still, or like coming in and out. I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think that ghosts or spirits or of people who have passed on are like beholden to one spot. Like, I know the movies always insinuate that, oh, the ghost can't leave that house because that's where they died or whatever, but I don't think that that's how that works in the actual spiritual realm. In my opinion, I think that spirits can go wherever they want. They just choose to be certain places sometimes. And I hope that that is comforting to some people. Like, for me, I know that there's a spirit of somebody who was very close to me who hangs around here. And I've seen the spirit of that person I was talking about who I dated when I was 16. I've seen him hanging out at my friend's house. And it's not like it's really hard to explain. It's kind of like seeing and kind of like sensing and kind of like almost telepathic, which I realize sounds really out there, but I don't really know how to explain it. And yeah, I don't know. We were making music at my friend's house. We were making like a new song. So it was really exciting. We were having a really good time, and I was like laying on the floor because I have brain damage and I need to lay flat because of this stupid brain fluid leak. And I looked up and there was just this like dancing, like almost like undulating, like big blob of light just like dancing over my friend's head. And I knew it was him. And it like it chokes me up a little just because it was so beautiful. And he had no idea. My friend doesn't really believe in God, and I don't think he would believe me if I told him that. He'd probably just think I was crazy, or it was part of the seizures, or whatever, but I know. I just know that that was our friend, like, hanging out and being happy we were making music and saying hi. And it was beautiful. And I hope that more people can understand that when you're missing somebody who's passed away, and when you're thinking about them, and you're upset or you're missing them, I think I already said that. I'm all emotional now. You know, they're there. They show up. I believe that when the spirits who have passed away know that you're missing them, they know that you're like trying to talk to them, they know that you want to be with them, they show up. And it's just your perception that like either allows you or disallows you to like experience that or to know that. It's your beliefs or lack thereof, I think, that allow you to either know that that is like they are there and they are with you. And it's the people who, I really, my heart hurts for the people who still don't believe in God or an afterlife, or that people's spirits go on. I think it's terribly, terribly, terribly depressing to think that once the people we love pass away, they're just gone forever in some dark void and they don't exist and it's the end. Like, I from what I've seen, that's just simply not the case. We're essentially just a dimension away, if that makes sense. And not to sound like we're going to the fifth dimension or whatever, but that's just another phrase for what everybody's trying to explain. So I don't want to like crap on any sort of attempted verbal explanation of this, because it's mind-bogglingly difficult to attempt to explain. And you always sound a little out there, but that's okay. I'm okay with sounding a little out there at this point. I mean, I feel like I sound like a little out there no matter what I'm talking about, so I might as well be talking about something that matters, which is like God and belief in in carrying on, and belief in something good and pure and true and merciful and like actual love and actual compassion. because I think we've all been missing that a little much lately. When I was first recovering from this injury, I read the Bible a lot. And I read a lot, I think I already listed off all the various other, like, spiritual texts I was listening to and reading. And while I was doing that, when I would go to bed, because I was in such unbelievable pain, I would pray. Because I didn't know what else to do. It seemed like the only thing to do. So I would pray before bed and pray for the people that I loved and pray for the people that had hurt me even sometimes. That was a major hurdle for me for a long time. This specifically Christian usually idea of forgiveness and forgiving your perpetrators and forgiving the people who have hurt you indescribably. That was a really hard piece for me for a very long time. It always used to piss me off when people would say you had to forgive your abuser in order to heal, or any variation thereof used to just really grind my gears. But now that I understand more why the suffering that I have had to endure was thrust upon me in this life. I understand more and accept more how and why the bad things that have happened to me have happened. And that in itself is how I've managed to, like, get free of some of it. There are two people in my life. There are two people in my life that have hurt me in a way that I have found it extremely difficult to forgive. I'm still not sure if I've fully forgiven, but I'm at least a lot closer than I used to be. And I know so it's a very controversial thing. It's like, you don't have to forgive somebody who, violently attacked you or whatever. And I realize you don't have to, but it's, once you start to, even if you're not all the way there, it's so much easier. I'm so sick of, I realized as I was healing from this head injury that the only way I would be able to focus on physical healing was to get rid of all of the emotional stuff, to get rid of all of the emotional stuff that was really holding me back. And part of that was the resentment of the people who had hurt me. And I realized, like, I really have to let go of that resentment. And it's unbelievably difficult, especially if you've been resenting someone for like 15 years or something crazy like that, like I was. And yeah, it took a very long time of just being alone with my thoughts, with my prayers, with God, essentially, with just sitting with it and just being like, my body is different now because of a violent attack, and I just have to accept that and just move on with my life and accept the fact that that person's not going to face any consequences for it, and there's nothing I can really do about that, and I have to be okay with it. And I have to just continue on and live my life in the best way possible so that it doesn't ruin my life, essentially. I realized, I was like, I cannot let these people who have done these heinous things to me continue to rule my life, because it's been far too long already. And as I felt like I was dying, I was just like, I don't want to go out resenting people. I don't want to go out on a bad note. I don't want to go out like with these negative ruminations in my head. And I think that was part of it. I was just like, well, if I'm gonna go, I gotta repent, and I gotta, like, forgive, and I gotta make sure I'm ready for the big guy upstairs. That was part of it. I really did believe that I was going to die at certain points, just because I would lose days. I would wake up one day and it would be Thursday and I thought it was Monday, and I'd be like, what happened? How I've just been asleep or like in and out of states of consciousness this whole time, and just like only waking up to go to the bathroom and eat food because that's how you have to stay alive, like, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. I think that personally, God was just keeping me alive. Like, I think it was purely God keeping me alive at that point. I don't really know who or what else, like, the person I live with was helping. But, like, when he wasn't there, I think it was just God. And the dreams I had, there were multiple times I went down that tunnel of light. I think it sounds almost funny and it sounds a little like ridiculous, but I think I went down that tunnel of light so many times that God just put me to work up there. I think he was just letting me work up there so I didn't have to be in my body and then go home, like go back to my body every morning, because it got to a point where I felt like I was going up that portal every night. And then I would have these night-long dreams where I was working and setting up houses for people and setting up buildings, and like it was as if I was staging heaven. It was as if I was going through this portal, going up to somewhere nicer, and then helping stage it, like helping supply the buildings with food, helping like put the schools together, helping like put homes together, and then like giving people food as they moved in. And it got to a point where it happened so frequently and it was such a like ongoing occurrence that I just assumed I was like going up to heaven to help set it up for the people that were going to be there soon and then coming back here during the day. And it like I just made that assumption and didn't tell anybody because I didn't want them to think I was insane. But that's what it felt like. It felt like, okay, you're in so much pain that you're leaving your body anyways, but we want to protect you from like the harms of the negative parts of the spiritual world. So come on up here and like get real estate ready for the new souls that are coming. That's what it felt like. That's what it seemed like I was doing in all of these dreams. And there were times where it was like dreams that I was in a cave and I was leading my friends out of a cave, or dreams that I was on this path and we had just given people a bunch of food and we were going up this path, and then there was a big sign that just says the land 48 miles, and we all knew that that was like where freedom was. And there was just so many specific, very vivid experiences I had in my sleep that I am just like, there's no way that all of that was just something conjured up by my subconscious. Like the amount I was talking to God, the amount I was in and out of my body, the amount I felt like I was dying, the amount of times I saw that portal open up and like just pew, like through it right before I went to sleep. And the amount of spirits that were talking to me. For years, even before this injury, I've had these dreams where spirits from people who have passed on come to me in my dream and they tell me things that I need to go tell the people who are still alive. And I've always felt insane for even having these dreams or like saying that. But I don't care anymore. Go ahead and think I'm insane. I've had dreams of helping spirits cross to the other side through various means for years. I've had dreams that I take a train with these souls through a huge stretch of desert to the other side, like the land of the dead. And as I'm taking this long train ride with them, they're all coming up to me because they know I'm not all the way dead. And they ask me to tell people things when I get back to the land of the living. And that was a very vivid dream. And then I had another vivid dream where I was in a river and the souls were passing through in the river. And I knew that I was supposed to just be there to help make sure that they got wherever they were going safely. I've had so many dreams of people that I know personally who have passed on, who come to me and tell me to go tell people that are still alive things, and then I feel like I'm insane because half of the people that they want me to talk to, like, I either don't really know them that well, or like I don't think they believe in God or spirits or any of that, or I think they'd be scared or just think I'm crazy. And it's been very confusing, and I haven't really known all that much like what to do with it until the past 2 years. The past 2 years, I've kind of just accepted it, and I'm just like, I'm here to do errands for ghosts sometimes. That seems to be the pattern. I get these intense messages, and I don't even know if you want to call it messages. It's like, I just get this sense sometimes, sixth sense, I don't know. I get this sense, and I'm just like, I have to do this thing, and I don't understand why, but it seems like this person wants me to do this, whether they're here or not, kind of thing. And whenever I follow those kind of sensed directives, I guess, it always ends up being the right thing to do. There have been so many times where I was like, oh, I shouldn't, whatever, and the less I doubt myself and the more I just let it happen and accept the fact that it's real, the less the struggle is, if that makes sense. It's like, I don't need to struggle with the fact that somebody's spirit is telling me to go, do something for someone. I might as well just do it. And it's not, I don't want to be taking, here's the thing that messes with my head a little. I don't want to be taking directives from entities that I don't understand. And I don't want to be taking directives from entities that are potentially not good or not God. And as far as a Christian perspective, at least, you're definitely not supposed to participate in any sort of sorcery or divination or consorting with spirits and that kind of thing. So that puzzles me a little as to why they're able to contact me so easily. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. I've been told I'm an open channel, because of the trauma I've sustained. I've been told I'm an open channel, and that's why I'm receptive to these sort of things. And the injury, I think, just put that into overdrive. As soon as I got that injury, I remote viewed somebody that I miss very much, and I didn't even mean to. And they confirmed it to me that that was actually what happened, which is crazy. Or I guess astral projected. I don't really know the right terms. But something, my consciousness was floating around, and it was not, your consciousness can float around. That's definitely a thing. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, I don't really know how helpful this may be to anybody, but it's just like, I know that a lot of people have been losing people lately, especially the past couple of years, and that's just going to continue for various reasons. I mean, obviously death is a part of life, but I hope it can be comforting to somebody out there that we don't go away forever, and you can talk to the people who are passed on, and they can hear you, and they miss you too, but they want you to know that they're waiting for you, and they see you now, and they'll see you when you're in their realm too. And then in that place, it's different. I find it funny when I've seen like comments on some video somewhere about, well, if your spouse dies and then you get married again, who are you married to in heaven? And I like laugh because in my opinion, it's like, it doesn't work like that. Love in heaven is different. It's not, there are no bounds. It's not sexual. Love in heaven is pure love. It's not like it is here. with all various stipulations, and you can't do this and you can do that, and this isn't love and this is love, and I'm gonna use love to manipulate you and all that fucking worldly nonsense. Sorry. But, you know, and love in the real, oh God, in the realest sense of the term, in the purest sense of the form, it's just, it's indescribable. It's warm, it's light, and it's all encompassing, and there's not any like end or beginning where you start and the other person begins. Like up there, it's all just, everybody is one. That's what the the Jewish people have been trying to tell us forever, right? We are all one, and like everybody's onto that. Ascension, one with the universe. It's all words for attempting to describe this just beautiful, indescribable, warm love light. And I realize I sound like the biggest hippie right now, but I don't care. It's still true. And I need everybody to know that. Love here is warped. Love up there is how it's supposed to be. And once we all get there, everybody will understand, and it won't matter anymore, and we'll have nothing to argue about. Alright, that's probably enough. I gotta go get ready for the day. If anybody doesn't agree with me, you can come at me, bro. I'm just kidding. It's totally fine if anybody doesn't agree with me. By no means am I the final say on what is real or is not real spiritually. So make no mistake, I haven't figured it all out either. It's all been extremely confusing, so it's fine. I just hope that this can comfort somebody, especially anybody who's lost anyone recently or mourning or grieving. You can talk to them. They're not physically with you, but they kind of are. Their souls hanging out as soon as you say their name. Their souls hanging out with you. So I hope that helps. And I hope that this prompts people to speak more with the spirits that have passed on, because they miss you and they're always trying to let you know that they love you, and it's really hard for them to convey that because people either get scared or they don't know or they can't perceive it or they don't believe in God or anything like that, so they just can't see it. It's the veil, you know? So I hope that if you're one of those people who wasn't believing in any of that sort of thing, or, you know, has really been missing someone and think that they're just gone to the void, I hope that this can give you some solace that they are not gone to the void. They're here. They're well. They're more well than they ever were when they were in this hell realm. So, and you'll see them again and be in a state of just pure love, and I hope that can be comforting. All right, I'm going to make myself cry, so I'm going to go. Bye.